Lucky American coins. The 1982 United States 1-cent coin is one of the most interesting Lincoln cents ever produced because it represents a major transition in the history of American coinage. At first glance, a 1982 Lincoln cent may look like an ordinary 1-cent coin, but this particular year is unusual because the United States Mint changed the composition of the cent during the year, producing coins made from the traditional copper-based alloy as well as coins made from copper-plated zinc. At the same time, both large-date and small-date varieties were produced, and the combination of mint mark, date style, composition, and possible striking errors creates several collectible varieties. This makes 1982 a particularly important year for anyone searching through old jars, rolls, collections, inherited coins, or pocket change for an unusual Lincoln cent. There is, however, an important point about the claim that a 1982 Lincoln cent has a current market value of $261 million. There is no reliable evidence establishing a 1982 Lincoln cent as a $261 million coin. Such enormous valuations commonly appear in viral coin videos, social media posts, thumbnails, and sensational online articles, but they should not be presented as confirmed market prices unless supported by a documented sale from a recognized auction house or another reliable numismatic source. The known market for genuine 1982 Lincoln cents, including extremely rare errors, is dramatically below $261 million. A famous 1982 D small date struck on a bronze planchet is genuinely rare and can be worth many thousands of dollars, but that is very different from a confirmed $261 million valuation. Professional authentication is essential before making a claim about an extraordinary value. The 1982 Lincoln cent is especially fascinating because 1982 was the transition year from the traditional bronze composition to copper-plated zinc. The traditional bronze composition used for Lincoln cents consisted of approximately 95% copper and 5% zinc, while the new cents used a zinc core with a thin copper coating. The change was primarily connected with production economics because copper had become substantially more expensive, making the traditional bronze cent more costly to manufacture. According to PCGS, the bronze 1982 cent weighs approximately 3.11 grams, while the zinc version weighs approximately 2.5 grams. PCGS also identifies 4 major Philadelphia varieties involving large date and small date designs in both bronze and zinc compositions. That difference in weight is one of the most important clues for anyone investigating a 1982 cent. If a 1982 cent weighs close to 3.11 grams, it is consistent with the heavier bronze composition. If it weighs approximately 2.50 grams, it is consistent with the copper-plated zinc composition. A precise digital scale capable of measuring to at least 1/100th of a gram is extremely useful when examining these coins. Weight alone does not prove authenticity, because coins can be damaged, altered, plated, drilled, or otherwise manipulated, but it is an excellent first screening method. The coin itself is a Lincoln Memorial cent. On the obverse is the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln facing right. Lincoln's portrait has appeared on the United States 1-cent coin since 1909, making it one of the longest-running designs in American numismatic history. The obverse includes the inscriptions Liberty and Iron God We Trust, along with the date 1982. Depending on the mint, a mint mark may appear beneath the date. A Philadelphia coin normally has no mint mark, while a Denver coin carries a D mint mark. The San Francisco Mint produced proof cents, which are separate category from ordinary circulation strikes. The reverse of the 1982 Lincoln cent features the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. The words United States of America appear around the upper portion, with 1 cent below the building and the motto E Pluribus Unum above it. The Lincoln Memorial reverse was introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It remained the standard reverse design until 2009, when the Mint issued special Lincoln bicentennial reverse designs before introducing the Union Shield reverse in 2010. The Lincoln Memorial design therefore connects the 1982 cent to a significant period in American history. The coin was produced during a time of changing manufacturing technology, changing metal prices, and efforts by the United States Mint to reduce production costs. The shift to zinc was not merely a minor design alteration. It fundamentally changed the physical characteristics of the cent and created an important transitional period for collectors. The 1982 cent is particularly valuable to collectors because the year contains multiple combinations of date, style, and composition. The date is generally described as either large date or small date. The differences can be subtle to someone who is unfamiliar with the varieties, but experienced collectors can recognize them by studying the shapes and proportions of the digits. The number 2 is especially useful. On the large date variety, the 2 has a broader appearance and a different lower shape, while the small date version has a more compact appearance with a distinctive curved lower portion. The shape of the 8 is another useful diagnostic feature. The 1982 varieties can be summarized as 1982 Philadelphia large date bronze, 1982 Philadelphia small date bronze, 1982 Philadelphia large date zinc, 1982 Philadelphia small date zinc, 1982D large date bronze, 1982D large date zinc, and 1982D small date zinc. The extremely unusual 1982D small date bronze cent is the major error variety that attracts enormous collector attention. PCGS recognizes the different major varieties and also lists double die varieties among the minor varieties. The 1982D small date bronze cent is particularly important because the small date design was expected to appear on zinc planchets at Denver, yet extremely rare examples exist that were struck on the heavier bronze planchet. This is commonly described as a transitional or wrong planchet error. Major numismatic sources report that only a tiny number of examples have been identified. APMEX reports that 2 examples have been identified, with one discovered in Minnesota in 2016 and another identified in 2019. The first reportedly sold for more than $18,000 and the second for more than $10,000. Those figures are dramatically different from $261 million, and that distinction matters. A coin can be extraordinarily rare without being worth hundreds of millions of dollars. The actual price of a collectible coin depends on rarity, authenticity, condition, certification, provenance, demand, auction competition, and the specific characteristics of the specimen. A rare coin can be worth thousands or tens of thousands of dollars without ever approaching millions. The 1982D small date bronze cent is one of the best examples of why the 1982 Lincoln cent is so interesting. If someone finds a 1982D cent with the small date, and it weighs around 3.11 grams, that combination deserves serious investigation. A normal 1982D small date cent should be associated with the lighter zinc composition, so a genuine heavy bronze example can represent an important transitional error. However, simply weighing 3.11 grams does not automatically make a coin valuable. Counterfeiters and coin manipulators have attempted to imitate rare 1982 varieties, and a professional grading service should be used for authentication. A person searching for one of these coins should begin by identifying the mint mark. If there is no mint mark, the coin was struck at Philadelphia. If there is AD below the date, it was struck at Denver. Then the date should be examined closely to determine whether it is large date or small date. Finally, the coin should be weighed. This simple 3-step process can separate ordinary 1982 cents from potentially interesting varieties. The weight test is particularly important because the composition change makes 1982 different from neighboring years. Before the change, the traditional Lincoln cent was primarily copper-based. After the change, circulation cents were made using copper-plated zinc. The 2 compositions have noticeably different masses. A traditional bronze cent is approximately 3.11 grams, whereas a zinc cent is approximately 2.5 grams. The term copper penny is sometimes used casually for all reddish-looking cents, but this can create confusion. A copper-plated zinc cent is not a solid copper coin. The zinc core provides most of the coin's mass, while the copper coating provides the familiar appearance. A 1982 zinc cent can therefore look very similar to a bronze cent even though its internal composition is substantially different. This is why magnets are not the best primary test for a 1982 cent. Zinc and copper behave differently from ferromagnetic metals, but a magnet test cannot reliably distinguish every genuine variety. Weight is much more useful. For serious examination, professional metallurgical analysis and certification provide stronger evidence than home testing. Another important characteristic is the diameter. A normal Lincoln cent measures approximately 19 mm across, and the edge is plain rather than reeded. PCGS lists the 1982 cent at 19.00 mm and 3.11 grams for the bronze Philadelphia issue. The coin's face value is 1 cent, but its collector value can be higher depending on variety and condition. Most ordinary circulated 1982 Lincoln cents are not rare treasures. Many are worth approximately face value or only a small premium. High-grade examples can bring more, and unusual varieties or errors can bring substantially more. PCGS records an auction result of $2,700 for a highly graded 1982 Philadelphia cent, illustrating that exceptional condition can create a significant premium even for a coin that was originally worth only 1 cent. This is one reason collectors should not assume that every old penny is worth a fortune. Age alone does not determine value. A 1982 coin is more than 4 decades old, but millions or billions of cents from this period were produced. What matters is whether the individual coin possesses a scarce variety, genuine mint era, exceptional grade, unusual composition, or other characteristics that collectors specifically seek. The production history of the 1982 Lincoln cent makes the year particularly significant. The mint had to manufacture cents while transitioning from one planchette composition to another. During a transitional period, mistakes can occur. A planchette intended for one type of coin can sometimes enter production for another type. A die can strike a planchette incorrectly. A coin can be struck off-center. A die can develop a doubled feature. A planchette can have problems before striking. These possibilities are why error collectors examine coins very carefully. A genuine mint error should be distinguished from post-mint damage. A coin dropped onto a hard surface can develop a distorted rim, flattened lettering, scratches, dents, or other unusual characteristics. Those conditions are generally damage rather than mint errors. A true mint error occurs during the manufacturing process at the mint. Off-center strikes are one type of genuine mint error. An off-center cent has part of the design missing because the planchette was not properly centered between the dies during striking. The value depends heavily on how dramatic the displacement is, whether the date remains visible, the condition of the coin, and collector demand. A minor displacement may have only a modest premium, while a dramatic off-center strike retaining a complete date can be much more desirable. Broad strikes are another possible striking error. They occur when a coin is struck outside the normal collar, allowing the metal to spread beyond its intended diameter. The resulting coin can have an unusual shape and a broad, expanded rim. Again, authenticity is important because damaged coins can sometimes look similar to genuine errors. Clipped planchets are another category. A portion of the planchette may be missing because of an error in the blanking process. A genuine clip often has diagnostic characteristics that help distinguish it from damage. Collectors study the shape and location of the clip, as well as the surrounding metal flow. Double dies are also important. A double die is created during die production and can cause portions of the design to appear doubled. It should not be confused with machine doubling, which can create a flatter, shelf-like appearance during striking. Genuine double die varieties are catalogued and studied by specialists, and PCGS lists 1982 Philadelphia DDO varieties among the minor varieties. The 1982 cent can therefore be interesting even if it is not the famous 1982 D small date Bronze era. Collectors may investigate double dies, off-center strikes, clipped planches, die cracks, die breaks, broad strikes, lamination problems, plating problems, and other recognized mint errors. However, not every unusual-looking coin is valuable. A coin should be evaluated according to established numismatic standards rather than viral photographs or exaggerated price claims. The copper-plated zinc cents from 1982 also created a number of unusual surface characteristics. Because the copper coating is thin, damage can expose the zinc beneath. Zinc corrosion can produce a gray, white, or rough appearance. Bubbles or areas where plating did not properly adhere can also occur. These may be interesting manufacturing problems, but their value varies considerably. The most important question for a collector is therefore not simply, is this a 1982 penny, but rather, which 1982 penny is this? That question requires examining the mint mark, date style, composition, weight, strike, surface, and condition. A 1982 Philadelphia cent with no mint mark can belong to multiple varieties. A 1982 D cent with the D mint mark can belong to several varieties as well. The small date and large date distinction is especially important. A collector should compare the date to authenticated reference photographs rather than relying solely on memory. The number 2 is often the easiest digit to examine. On the large date version, the lower part of the 2 has a more substantial appearance. On the small date version, the lower stroke is more curved and delicate. The number 8 can also help. On the small date, the upper loop can appear smaller relative to the lower loop. These distinctions become easier when 2 authenticated examples are placed side by side. The 1982 cent is also historically significant because it represents the end of the long period in which the United States Mint routinely used the traditional bronze alloy for circulating cents. The economic pressures surrounding copper prices eventually encouraged the adoption of zinc. This change remains visible today because collectors can physically compare 2 coins from the same year that have different weights and compositions. The Lincoln Memorial itself adds another layer of history. Abraham Lincoln's presidency occurred during the American Civil War, one of the most consequential periods in United States history. The Lincoln cent was introduced in 1909, during the centennial of Lincoln's birth. Victor David Brenner's portrait of Lincoln became an iconic part of American coinage. Frank Gasparo's Lincoln Memorial reverse continued that legacy beginning in 1959. The 1982 cent therefore carries several historical stories at once. It represents Lincoln's legacy, the Lincoln Memorial design, the economic challenges of copper, the technological transition to zinc, and the continuing development of American mint manufacturing. When discussing the coin symbol, the 1982 Lincoln cent does not have a special symbol equivalent to a commemorative emblem. The principal identifiers are the denomination 1 cent, the date, the mint mark when present, Liberty, In God We Trust, United States of America, E Pluribus Unum, and the Lincoln Memorial design. The D mint mark identifies Denver. A Philadelphia circulation cent normally carries no mint mark. The coin's diameter is approximately 19 millimeters. The edge is plain. The bronze composition is approximately 95% copper and 5% zinc, while the newer composition consists of a zinc core with copper plating. PCGS gives the Philadelphia bronze issue a mass of 3.11 grams. The total production of Philadelphia 1982 cents was enormous. PCGS lists a mintage of 10,712,525,000 for the regular Philadelphia 1982 cent entry. This enormous production explains why ordinary examples are generally common. Scarcity exists at the variety and era level rather than simply at the date level. This distinction is critical for anyone creating a video about the coin. Saying 1982 penny worth $261 million, without qualification, could mislead viewers into believing that every 1982 penny is potentially worth hundreds of millions of dollars. A more accurate and still exciting statement would be that certain rare 1982 varieties and eras can be worth substantial amounts, with the 1982 small date bronze era being one of the most famous examples, while there's no verified $261 million market price. For a YouTube video, this distinction can actually make the story more compelling. Instead of promising an unsupported fortune, the video can explain how a 1-cent coin became one of the most fascinating transition year coins in American numismatics. Viewers can learn exactly what to look for, and why the 1982 small date bronze era is important. The phrase, worth big money, should therefore be understood as a possibility for specific rare examples rather than a guarantee for every coin. A normal circulated 1982 cent may be worth only 1 cent. A better preserved variety can bring a premium. A high-grade certified example can be worth considerably more. A genuine rare era can potentially bring thousands or tens of thousands of dollars. A spectacular specimen with unusual characteristics could attract strong competition among specialists. The condition of the coin is another major factor. Collectors generally use grading systems that range from heavily circulated examples to extremely high mint state grades. Coins with sharp details, clean surfaces, original color, and minimal contact marks tend to be more desirable. Red copper color can be particularly important for modern Lincoln cents because copper naturally changes color over time. Lincoln cents are commonly described using color designations such as brown, and red. These descriptions are particularly relevant to uncirculated copper coins. A brilliant original red coin can command a significant premium compared with a brown example of the same grade and variety. However, artificially recolored coins can be detected by experienced graders, and artificial color can negatively affect desirability. Cleaning is another major concern. A collector should generally avoid polishing or chemically cleaning a potentially valuable coin. Cleaning can remove the original surface and leave hairlines or unnatural brightness. A coin that looks shiny because it has been polished may actually be worth less than an untouched coin with natural toning. This is especially important if someone believes they have discovered a rare 1982 small date bronze cent. The coin should not be polished, scraped, dipped, drilled, or otherwise altered. The safest approach is to preserve it in its existing condition and seek professional evaluation. Authentication is essential because the rarity of the 1982 small date bronze cent creates an incentive for counterfeiting. One possible problem is a Philadelphia cent that has been manipulated to appear to be a Denver coin. Another is a zinc coin that has been altered or otherwise modified to imitate a heavier bronze specimen. Collectors should be cautious when purchasing an alleged rarity from an unknown seller. A professional grading service can authenticate the coin, determine the variety, evaluate the grade, and encapsulate the specimen. For a potentially major rarity, third-party certification can make a substantial difference to marketability because buyers have much greater confidence in a professionally authenticated coin. The 1982 small date bronze cent is sometimes compared with famous wrong metal or transitional eras from other periods. However, comparisons should be made carefully. Each era has its own production history, rarity, condition, and market. The fact that one coin sold for a certain amount does not mean another coin automatically has the same value. The first reported 1982 small date bronze example was discovered decades after production, which illustrates why old coins can continue to produce surprises. A coin can circulate unnoticed for many years before someone realizes that its combination of date style, mint mark, and weight is unusual. That is one reason collectors enjoy searching rolls and old collections. Imagine finding a 1982 Lincoln cent in a jar. At first, it appears completely ordinary. You look at the date and see 1982. You notice the D mint mark. You then examine the date and realize it appears to be the small date style. Finally, you put the coin on a digital scale and the display shows approximately 3.11 grams instead of approximately 2.50 grams. At that moment, the coin becomes worthy of serious investigation. It is not automatically a $261 million coin, but it could potentially be a very important numismatic discovery. The next step would be comparison with authenticated examples. Magnification can help examine the date and mint mark. The surfaces should be checked for signs of alteration. The coin should then be submitted to a reputable grading service if the initial examination continues to support the possibility of a rare transitional error. The importance of the exact weight cannot be overstated. A coin weighing approximately 3.11 grams is consistent with the bronze planchette. A coin weighing approximately 2.50 grams is consistent with zinc. The difference of roughly 0.61 grams is substantial enough to be a useful diagnostic feature. PCGS and other numismatic references specifically use these weight differences to distinguish the compositions. However, scales can have errors, and environmental factors can influence readings. A scale should be calibrated and used on a stable surface. Dirt or debris on the coin can also affect weight slightly. For a potentially valuable coin, professional testing is preferable to relying solely on a household scale. The market value of a 1982 Lincoln cent varies enormously. Ordinary circulated pieces generally trade around face value. Some varieties have modest premiums. High-grade coins can bring substantially more. Rare errors can reach thousands or more. Current published guides place the rare 1982 small date bronze variety in the broad range of many thousands of dollars, with some sources citing approximately $10,000 to $20,000, or more depending on authentication and condition. The fact that different sources give different prices is normal. Coin values are not fixed like government-set denominations. The face value of the coin is 1 cent, but the collector value is determined by the market. A certified coin sold at auction may bring one price, while another example of the same variety in different condition may bring another. Auction prices are especially important because they provide evidence of what buyers have actually paid. A price guide is an estimate, while a documented auction result is a transaction. This is why claims of extraordinary values should be treated cautiously unless they can be traced to a credible sale record. The reported PCGS auction record for a regular 1982 Philadelphia cent is $2,700 for a very high-grade example, showing how condition can influence value. But that record should not be confused with the value of the rare 1982 small date bronze era, which is a separate variety with a different rarity profile. The $261 million figure should therefore be treated as a sensational or hypothetical claim, not as an established current market value. There is no reliable evidence from the sources examined here that a 1982 Lincoln cent has sold for $261 million. If a video uses that figure, it should clearly label it as an unverified claim or hypothetical headline rather than a confirmed sale price. This does not make the coin boring. In fact, the truth is arguably more interesting. A 1-cent coin that can be found in circulation, or an old collection, can contain a genuine manufacturing mistake from a historic transition in United States mint production. The possibility that a rare example may be worth thousands of dollars makes the search exciting without requiring an impossible valuation. The 1982 cent also demonstrates why collectors study details that casual observers ignore. The difference between a large date and small date can be subtle. The difference between bronze and zinc may be invisible from a normal photograph. The mint mark may be tiny. Yet these details can determine which variety a coin represents. The coin's history begins before 1982, because the Lincoln cent had already been in production for decades. By the early 1980s, inflation and metal costs had made the traditional copper-based cent increasingly expensive to manufacture. Zinc offered a less expensive alternative while allowing the mint to preserve the familiar copper-colored appearance by applying a copper coating. The change created an unusual situation in which two different compositions existed during the same calendar year. This is one of the main reasons 1982 became a landmark year for Lincoln cent collectors. The year is not merely a date, it is a dividing line between two manufacturing eras. The 7 major intended varieties are often discussed as a combination of date style, mint, and composition. The exceptional 8th combination, the 1982D small date bronze cent, is important precisely because the combination was not supposed to be produced in normal circulation. Some sources describe it as a transitional alloy error or wrong planchet error. The term transitional error describes a situation where a coin is struck using a planchet or composition associated with a different production stage. In the case of the famous 1982D small date bronze cent, the unusual combination involves the small date Denver design and the heavier bronze planchet. This is why the coin's weight is so useful. If the coin was simply a small date 1982D weighing approximately 2.5 grams, it would correspond to the expected zinc composition. If it were a genuine small date 1982D weighing around 3.11 grams, it would be an entirely different story. A collector should also check whether the mint mark itself appears genuine. Altered mint marks can be difficult to identify without experience. Under magnification, an added or modified mint mark may show differences in metal flow, texture, or tooling. Professional grading services have specialists who can examine these characteristics. The same caution applies to the date. A coin can sometimes be manipulated to resemble a rare date variety. Since the 1982 small date distinction is valuable to collectors, it is important to compare the coin against known genuine examples. For a video audience, one of the best lessons from the 1982 cent is that viewers should never automatically believe a giant price printed over a photograph. A thumbnail saying $261 million is not proof that the coin is worth $261 million. The real value must come from evidence. A responsible collector can say that the coin is associated with rare varieties and errors, and that certain examples have sold for substantial sums. That is both exciting and accurate. The 1 cent denomination is itself historically important. The cent has been a part of American commerce since the earliest years of the United States. Over time, the materials and designs changed, but the basic denomination remained. The 1982 Lincoln cent therefore belongs to a long tradition of American small denomination coinage. The Lincoln portrait on the obverse is especially recognizable. Lincoln's image has become one of the most familiar faces in American currency and coinage. On the cent, his portrait is surrounded by the inscriptions that communicate national identity and political ideals. The word liberty reflects the country's founding principles, while "In God We Trust" became a standard motto on United States coinage. The reverse Lincoln memorial design is also historically significant. The memorial in Washington, D.C., was chosen as the reverse in 1959. The design remained for half a century, and became one of the most recognizable American coin reverses. The 1982 cent therefore belongs to the middle period of the Lincoln Memorial Cent series. When discussing the value of a 1982 cent, condition should be evaluated separately from rarity. A rare error in poor condition can still be valuable because of its rarity, while a common variety in exceptional condition can also bring a premium. In both cases, professional grading can help establish the coin's market position. A coin's surfaces should be inspected for scratches, corrosion, stains, environmental damage, cleaning, and other defects. The edges should also be examined, because edge damage can indicate accidental damage rather than a mint error. The color should be observed under natural or neutral lighting. If the coin is zinc, look for areas where the copper plating may be damaged. If the coin is bronze, look for natural copper toning. Neither color alone establishes the composition. The scale is much more informative. The 1982 cent is also an excellent example of why coin collecting combines history, science, and economics. The history explains why the mint changed composition. Chemistry explains the difference between bronze and zinc. Manufacturing explains how errors could occur. Economics explains why collectors are willing to pay premiums. Authentication separates genuine rarities from altered coins. The market can also change over time. A coin that sells for $10,000 today may sell for a different amount in the future depending on collector demand and the availability of comparable examples. But any future price should still be supported by actual transactions rather than unsupported claims. The most valuable possible 1982 cent discussed in this context is the authenticated 1982 D small date bronze era, not an ordinary 1982 penny. Published sources report only a tiny number of known examples. APMEX describes 2 identified examples and reports sales above $18,000 and $10,000 respectively. Other current guides similarly place authenticated examples in the many thousands of dollars range. The exact value of another example would depend on its grade, originality, authentication, provenance, and market conditions. If a new example were discovered and authenticated, its sale could attract significant attention because of the extreme rarity. This is where the phrase "worth big money" becomes meaningful. Big money does not necessarily mean millions or hundreds of millions. In coin collecting, a coin worth $10,000, $20,000, or more can be considered a major discovery, especially when its face value is only 1 cent. The difference between face value and collector value is one of the most fascinating elements of numismatics. The government recognizes the cent as 1 cent for spending purposes, but collectors can assign a much higher value to a rare specimen. This happens because collectors are not buying the purchasing power of the metal, they are buying rarity, history, condition, and the story attached to the object. The 1982 D small date bronze cent has an especially strong story. It connects a planned change in composition with an accidental survival of an older type of planchette. It is therefore not merely an old penny, it is a physical record of a manufacturing transition. For anyone searching for this variety, the recommended process is simple. First, locate the date. Second, check whether there is a D mint mark. Third, determine whether the date is small date or large date. Fourth, weigh the coin. Fifth, compare the physical characteristics with authenticated references. Sixth, if the combination appears unusual, seek professional authentication. Do not clean the coin during this process. Do not scrape the surface to reveal the metal. Do not use chemicals. Do not try to remove the copper coating. Do not add or remove a mint mark. Any alteration can destroy collector value. The coin should ideally be handled by its edges, because oils from fingers can leave residues on the surface. A soft, inert holder is preferable for storage. For potentially valuable coins, professional holders provide additional protection. A digital scale accurate to at least 0.01 gram is a useful tool for any Lincoln cent collector. A magnifying glass or loupe can help inspect the date, mint mark, double details, and surface characteristics. Reference photographs from reputable numismatic sources are useful for comparing varieties. Collectors should also remember that the 1982's proof cents are a separate category. Proof coins were made for collectors rather than ordinary circulation, and they can have different characteristics and values. A proof coin should not be confused with a circulation strike simply because both carry the 1982 date. The Philadelphia 1982 cent has no mint mark. That absence is normal and should not be considered an error. Similarly, the D on a Denver cent is not an error, it is the legitimate mint mark identifying the production facility. The word error should be used carefully. A variety is not necessarily an error. Large date and small date are recognized varieties. The 1982 D small date bronze combination is significant because of its abnormal planchette composition for that design and mint combination. A double die is a variety, or die error depending on the specific classification. A damaged coin is not a mint error simply because it looks unusual. This distinction can prevent many false claims. For example, a cent with a flattened area may have been struck by machinery after leaving the mint. A cent with scratches may have been damaged in circulation. A cent with a strange color may have been exposed to chemicals. These characteristics can be interesting, but do not necessarily make the coin rare. The 1982 Lincoln cent therefore rewards careful observation rather than sensational assumptions. The best discoveries are made when collectors combine curiosity with evidence. The history of the cent's composition also explains why the coin can feel different in the hand. A bronze cent is heavier and denser than a zinc cent. If two 1982 cents are placed on a scale, the difference can be immediately visible in the readings. One may show approximately 3.11 grams, while the other shows approximately 2.50 grams. That physical difference is the result of the mint's transition in manufacturing materials. This transition was economically significant. Copper was increasingly expensive, and changing the cent's composition offered a way to reduce material costs. The mint therefore had to adapt its production process. The 1982 cents preserve evidence of that adaptation. The Lincoln Memorial reverse continued without interruption, meaning that the composition change was not accompanied by a dramatic visual redesign. To ordinary users, the coins looked almost identical. That made the transition easy to overlook. Collectors, however, noticed the difference. The 1982 cent became a specialist subject because the same date could represent several physical combinations. That is rare enough to make the year important even without the famous error. If a 1982 cent is described as being worth $261 million, a responsible evaluation should ask several questions. Was the coin actually sold for that amount? Which auction house handled the sale? Was the sale publicly documented? What was the certification number? What variety was the coin? What grade did it receive? Was the price a real transaction, or simply an online estimate? Without answers to those questions, the $261 million figure should not be treated as a verified market value. At present, reliable references do not support a $261 million market value for a 1982 Lincoln cent. The documented values for known rare examples are much lower, although still impressive for a 1-cent coin. The rare 1982 D small date bronze cent is a genuine high-value variety, and reported examples have reached 5-figure prices. This correction actually makes the subject more credible for a serious coin channel. Viewers appreciate learning how to identify genuine rarity rather than being told that every old penny is worth a fortune. The phrase market current value should also be understood as conditional. Coin prices fluctuate according to auction results and buyer demand. A price guide can provide a useful estimate, but an actual sale gives stronger evidence. Condition can cause enormous differences between otherwise similar coins. The 1982 cent is particularly sensitive to grading because high-grade copper coins can be difficult to preserve. Contact marks can occur during production, transportation, banking, and circulation. Even a coin that appears brilliant to the naked eye can have microscopic marks that prevent it from reaching the highest grades. Professional graders examine strike quality, surface preservation, luster, color, and other characteristics. A certified high-grade coin can be worth much more than an uncertified coin that appears similar to an inexperienced observer. Certification is especially important for a claimed major error. A buyer may be willing to pay a significant amount for a certified rarity, while an uncertified coin can face skepticism. The authentication process helps establish that the coin is genuine and that the unusual characteristics are part of the mint's manufacturing history rather than later alteration. For the collector, who discovers an apparently valuable 1982 cent, patience is important. Do not immediately sell it to the first person who says it is rare. Obtain independent information. Compare auction records. Consult established numismatic organizations or professional dealers. If the coin appears to be a major rarity, certification should be considered before a major transaction. The 1982 cent also teaches an important lesson about viral coin content. A photograph of a penny next to a huge dollar amount can generate millions of views, but the image itself is not evidence of value. A coin's value comes from identifiable characteristics and documented market activity. A good coin video can still use an exciting headline while explaining the facts. For example, a video could say that collectors are checking 1982 cents for a rare error, and then explain that some authenticated examples have brought thousands of dollars. That creates genuine curiosity, without presenting an unsupported $261 million claim as fact. The coin's design itself deserves attention. On the obverse, Lincoln's portrait dominates the field. The portrait was based on Victor David Brenner's famous design. The date sits on the lower right side, while liberty appears to the left and Iron God We Trust runs along the upper portion. The reverse features the Lincoln Memorial, surrounded by the inscriptions associated with the denomination and the United States. The memorial reverse is significant because it was introduced during the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. The 1982 coin therefore belongs to the period in which the memorial design was firmly established in American daily commerce. The 1982 cent also demonstrates how a coin's physical characteristics can become historical evidence. A heavier bronze cent and a lighter zinc cent from the same year can tell the story of the mint's economic transition without requiring any written document. The coins themselves preserve that history. The 1982 small date bronze era adds another layer, because it represents an unexpected combination of production characteristics. Instead of being simply a normal coin from the transition year, it appears to preserve a mistake or transitional event in the manufacturing process. This is the reason collectors call such pieces needle-in-a-haystack discoveries. Millions of normal coins can exist while only a handful contain the combination that creates extraordinary rarity. For someone searching old coins, the best approach is not to assume that every 1982 cent is valuable. Instead, search systematically. Keep potentially interesting pieces separate. Weigh them. Photograph both sides. Record the mint mark. Compare the date style. Avoid cleaning. Then investigate. A 1982 cent weighing 2.50 grams is generally consistent with a zinc composition. A 1982 cent weighing 3.11 grams is consistent with bronze. A 1982 small date weighing around 3.11 grams is the combination that deserves the most attention because it may correspond to the famous rare transitional era. If such a coin is found, the next question is authenticity. A genuine coin should exhibit natural metal flow and appropriate design characteristics. The mint mark, date, edge, surfaces, and composition should all make sense together. A professional examination can determine whether the specimen is genuine. The value of a genuine example would depend on its condition and the market at the time of sale. Published sources have reported five-figure prices, including a reported sale above $18,000 for one authenticated example. That is an extraordinary return compared with the 1-cent denomination, but it is not evidence for a $261 million valuation. The difference between $18,000 and $261 million is enormous. The latter is more than 14,000 times the former. A claim that dramatic would require extraordinary evidence, such as a documented sale at that amount. Without such evidence, it should not be described as the current market value. There is also no guarantee that a newly discovered example would automatically sell for the highest previous price. Condition, certification, timing, auction competition, and buyer interest all matter. The history of the 1982 cent therefore provides a perfect example of how numismatic value works. The coin begins with a face value of 1 cent. Most examples remain close to that value. Certain varieties become collectible. Rare errors become highly desirable. Exceptional specimens can reach significant prices. But the price must always be connected to evidence. The word rare itself should also be used carefully. A variety can be scarcer than another without being extremely rare. The 1982 small date bronze era is different because the number of known examples is exceptionally small. Sources discussing the variety commonly identify only 2 authenticated examples. The 1982 small date bronze cent is another interesting variety, but it should not be confused with the 1982 small date bronze era. The Philadelphia coin does not have the same extreme rarity because the combination was produced as part of the transition. The Denver small date bronze combination is the exceptional one. This distinction is essential when determining value. A 1982 no mint mark small date bronze cent is not automatically worth tens of thousands of dollars. The mint mark and composition must be evaluated together. Likewise, a 1982 large date bronze cent is not the same as a 1982 small date bronze cent. The small date is the crucial feature in the famous rare era. A collector can learn these distinctions by studying the date styles side by side. The large date and small date differences become much easier to see after repeated comparison. The 1982 cent is also a reminder that mint marks matter. The absence of a mint mark on a Philadelphia cent is normal. The D on a Denver cent identifies the Denver facility. The mint mark can therefore be one of the first pieces of information a collector records. The coin's plain edge is another identifying feature. Unlike modern nickels, dimes, and quarters with reeded edges, the Lincoln cent has a plain edge. Any unusual edge feature should be examined carefully because it could represent damage, a mint error, or an alteration. The composition transition also affected the physical feel of the coin. Bronze is denser than zinc, so the bronze cent feels heavier even though the dimensions are essentially the same. This is why a scale is such an effective screening tool. The 1982 cent is often recommended as a coin to check precisely because the varieties can still be encountered outside specialized collections. The fact that the coins entered ordinary circulation means that some examples may have survived in jars, boxes, inherited collections, and rolls. A person sorting through a collection should not assume that a coin's condition has to be perfect to be interesting. A rare transitional error can remain valuable even if it circulated. The known 1982 small date bronze examples themselves include circulated material. However, better condition can increase the value substantially. A rare coin with attractive surfaces and strong details can attract more collector interest than a heavily worn example. The safest storage method is a non-reactive coin holder. Avoid PVC-containing materials because they can damage coin surfaces over time. For a potentially valuable coin, professional encapsulation is often appropriate after authentication. The coin should also be kept away from moisture, chemicals, extreme temperatures, and unnecessary handling. Copper-based coins can react with environmental conditions, causing color changes or corrosion. If the coin has been found in an old collection, preserving its original state can be important. A collector should photograph it before sending it for evaluation. The photographs can document the coin's condition and provide a record. The 1982 Lincoln cent is ultimately a story about transition. It marks a change from bronze to zinc, from one manufacturing economy to another, and from a familiar composition to the copper-plated zinc cents that became standard afterward. It also preserves the large date and small date varieties that make the year distinctive. The rare era adds excitement because it demonstrates what can happen when manufacturing processes overlap. The 1982 small date bronze cent is valuable not because its face value is 1 cent, but because its physical characteristics document an unusual event in the mint's production process. The best way to describe its value is therefore to say that authenticated examples have reached the 5-figure range, with the exact value dependent on grade and market conditions. Current references do not support a $261 million confirmed market price. If someone possesses a 1982 cent and believes it may be valuable, the most important information to record is the mint mark, date, style, weight, condition, and any unusual striking characteristics. Those 5 pieces of information can determine whether further investigation is worthwhile. The first photograph should show the entire obverse clearly. The second should show the reverse. Additional close-up photographs can show the date and mint mark. A photograph of the coin on a scale can document the weight, although professional testing remains preferable. The coin should never be scratched to determine whether it is copper. Scratching destroys the surface and can reduce value. A proper scale and professional analysis are much safer. Likewise, a chemical test should not be performed at home on a potentially rare coin. The goal is to preserve the specimen, not damage it in the process of identification. A collector who finds an ordinary 1982 cent should not be disappointed. It is still a historically interesting coin. The transition year itself makes it more educational than many ordinary dates. Studying it can lead to a broader understanding of United States coin production. The 1982 cent also illustrates the importance of researching before buying. If someone offers a supposed $261 million 1982 penny, the buyer should demand documentation. A credible seller should be able to explain the variety, authentication, certification, provenance, and comparable sales. A dramatic claim without evidence is not enough. Professional numismatics depends heavily on documentation. A rare coin is valuable partly because other collectors can verify its identity and history. Certification creates a common language for buyers and sellers. For the rare 1982 small date bronze cent, professional authentication is particularly important because of the possibility of alterations and counterfeits. A genuine specimen should be treated as a major numismatic rarity. The coin's 1 cent denomination makes the story especially dramatic. A tiny copper-colored disc that once purchased only 1 cent can become the subject of serious collector interest because of a microscopic difference in the date and an invisible difference in composition. That is the essence of coin collecting. The value is not always obvious. Sometimes the most important clue is something that cannot be seen without a scale. The 1982 cent is therefore one of the best examples of a check-your-change coin, although collectors should keep expectations realistic. Most 1982 cents are ordinary. A very small number are unusual. An even smaller number may be genuinely rare. The potential discovery of a rare 1982 small date bronze cent is exciting because only a few examples have been identified. But it is precisely because the variety is so rare that authentication matters. The coin's historical background also explains why collectors remain interested more than 4 decades after its production. The transition from bronze to zinc was a major change in United States coin manufacturing. The 1982 cents preserve both sides of that transition. The coin's design remained familiar, which helped ordinary Americans accept the new composition without noticing a major difference. The Lincoln portrait and memorial reverse remained essentially the same, while the internal metal composition changed. This is a recurring theme in numismatics. A coin can look ordinary while being extraordinary. The surface may reveal only a date and a portrait, while its weight and variety reveal a completely different story. The 1982 cent is therefore worth examining carefully, but not exaggerating. The genuine rare variety is exciting enough without a fictional $261 million valuation. If a video or article wants to use the $261 million figure as a hook, it should clearly explain that the figure is an unverified sensational claim rather than a confirmed market price. This protects the audience from misinformation and gives the content greater credibility. A strong collector-focused presentation can say that the 1982 Lincoln cent is a transitional year coin with multiple varieties, and that one extremely rare 1982D small date bronze era has been reported and sold for 5-figure amounts. That is a remarkable story based on documented information. The coin's physical specifications are straightforward. The diameter is about 19 millimeters. The bronze version weighs about 3.11 grams. The zinc version weighs about 2.5 grams. The edge is plain. The denomination is 1 cent. The obverse depicts Abraham Lincoln, while the reverse depicts the Lincoln Memorial. The standard bronze composition is approximately 95% copper and 5% zinc. The zinc cent contains a zinc core with copper plating. The visual similarity between the two is one of the reasons the weight test is so useful. The 1982 cent can therefore be described as both a historical coin and a diagnostic coin. It teaches collectors to look beyond appearance. When examining the date, the large date and small date characteristics should be compared carefully. The small date tends to have a more compact appearance, and the shapes of the 8 and 2 can help identify it. The difference may be subtle enough that a beginner needs reference photographs. When examining the weight, a reading around 3.11 grams suggests bronze. A reading around 2.50 grams suggests zinc. When examining the mint mark, no mint mark indicates Philadelphia, and D indicates Denver for circulation strikes. These details together form the identification process. A 1982 D small date at approximately 2.5 grams is not the famous Bronze Era. A 1982 D small date at approximately 3.11 grams is the combination that deserves professional attention. The phrase current value should always be attached to a specific coin, not just a year. A 1982 penny in circulated condition may be worth face value. A high-grade certified variety may be worth much more. A rare era can be worth thousands. The exact value cannot be determined from the date alone. This principle applies to almost every collectible coin. Date, mint mark, variety, grade, eras, composition, and authenticity all matter. For a collector discovering a 1982 cent today, the best first investment is not a promise of instant wealth, but a good scale, a magnifier, reliable reference material, and patience. The most exciting possibility is discovering something that the market genuinely recognizes as rare. If the coin is genuine and certified, the collector can then use documented sales to understand its market value. The 1982 Lincoln cent remains an excellent example of how a transition in manufacturing can create an important collectible. It also shows why small differences can have large consequences in the coin market. The famous rare 1982 D small date bronze cent is not worth $261 million, according to documented market evidence available from reliable references. Published information instead places known examples in the range of many thousands of dollars, with reported sales above $10,000 and $18,000. The difference between those figures and $261 million should be made clear whenever the coin is discussed. Nevertheless, finding a genuine example would still be an extraordinary event. A 1-cent coin turning into a 5-figure collectible is exactly the kind of discovery that makes numismatics fascinating. The 1982 Lincoln cent has a place in American history because it represents the end of one material era and the beginning of another. It has a place in Lincoln cent collecting because of its multiple varieties. It has a place in era collecting because of the rare small-date bronze Denver examples. And it has a place in educational content because it demonstrates how careful examination can reveal information invisible to the naked eye. The coin story begins with a simple question: what is a 1982 penny really made of? The answer depends on the exact variety. That question leads to another: is the date large or small? Then another: is there a D mint mark? Then, how much does it weigh? Finally, is there a genuine mint error? By answering those questions in order, a collector can move from a common 1-cent coin toward a potentially important numismatic discovery. The 1982 cent is proof that value can hide in details. But it is equally important to remember that not every unusual detail creates a fortune. Accurate identification is more important than an impressive headline. The most responsible conclusion is that an ordinary 1982 Lincoln cent is generally worth around its face value in circulated condition, while certain varieties, high-grade examples, and genuine errors can carry premiums. The 1982 D small date bronze transitional era is the major rarity to watch for, and authenticated examples have reached 5-figure prices. There is no established evidence that a 1982 Lincoln cent has a current market value of $261 million. If you find a 1982 penny, do not throw it away simply because it looks ordinary. Check the date. Check the mint mark. Check whether the date is large or small. Weigh the coin. Look for genuine mint errors. Preserve the coin without cleaning it. If the results suggest the rare combination, have it professionally authenticated. That is the real treasure story behind the 1982 Lincoln cent. It is not that every penny is secretly worth hundreds of millions of dollars. The real story is that a historic transition in United States coin production created a handful of remarkable coins, and some of those coins can be worth thousands of dollars because collectors recognize their rarity. A 1-cent coin from 1982 can therefore be ordinary, collectible, or extraordinarily rare depending on the exact specimen. Its face value is 1 cent, but its numismatic story can be worth far more. The 1982 Lincoln cent remains one of the most fascinating dates in the modern Lincoln cent series because it combines history, economics, design, metallurgy, minting technology, varieties, and errors in one year. The change from bronze to zinc created a physical difference that can be measured. The large date and small date varieties created visual differences that can be studied. The Denver small date bronze era created an extremely rare combination that has attracted serious collectors. For anyone interested in American coins, the 1982 Lincoln cent is therefore a coin worth knowing. Its history explains why it was made differently. Its design connects it to Abraham Lincoln and the Lincoln Memorial, its weight reveals its composition, its mint mark identifies its production facility, and its varieties demonstrate how complicated a single year's coinage can become. And if one of these coins appears in your collection, the smartest response is not to assume that it is worth $261 million. The smartest response is to investigate it carefully, compare it with authenticated references, protect it from damage, and seek professional authentication if the characteristics indicate a potentially rare variety. The true value of the 1982 Lincoln cent lies in that combination of history and possibility. Most examples are common. A few are scarce. An exceptionally small number are genuinely rare. The rarest examples can command prices far above 1 cent, and the 1982 D small date Bronze Era remains one of the most intriguing possibilities for collectors searching this transitional year. In the end, the 1982 Lincoln cent teaches a simple lesson that applies to all coin collecting: never judge a coin only by its appearance, never trust an extraordinary price without evidence, and always verify the exact variety before assigning a value. A tiny difference in composition, weight, date style, or mint mark can completely change the identity of a coin, but the final market value must always be based on authentication and real collector demand rather than an unsupported internet claim.